Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. May you please tell the viewers your name and how you like to be, introduced?
Yeah, my name is Savannah. I'd like to be introduced like my career.
Nice, nice. Do you have like preferred pronouns that you care about?
Just she, her.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how old are you? Who are you? Like,
I am 25. I'm a writer. A Portlander.
okay. So you identify with Portland. Are you originally from Portland?
I am from just outside of Portland, like an hour away.
Okay, yeah. Kelso is what you were talking about earlier, right? Yeah. How long did you spend in Kelso before you moved to Portland?
I spent my entire life up until 20 in Kelso before I decided to leave.
Okay. Do you have any political views of any sorts?
I'm leftist. For sure.
So you and Kelso wasn't the best fit.
No, we butted heads a little bit.
Yeah, so growing up, did you have people that took care of you? Who were they?
Yeah, my grandma, I was over there all the time. I was raised in a pretty traditional household with my mom, my dad, and then my younger brother. But my dad worked a lot, so it was usually my mother and my brother and I at home.
Were you close to your parents growing up?
I think my dad and I got closer when I got older. We were close when I was little, and then not so much in the middle, and then when I got older, we are again. My mom, I think we were close at one point. She is an addict, so she kind of went away, and I guess so did our relationship. But yeah, my dad and I are pretty close now.
Good. I mean, what did you do in those times where maybe you and your parents weren't seeing eye to eye? How did you release that energy?
I think, well, when I was growing up, I had a sort of friend group that I would kind of like mosey in and out of a little bit. My best friend I met when I was 15, and when I met her, that made kind of the adolescent struggles a lot easier.
Right.
So that was, she and I would hang out, and that would help with a lot of that negative energy.
Good. Were you guys going through like maybe similar struggles at home and kind of bonded over that, or what made you guys' bond so strong at that time?
I don't think she and I necessarily had the same parental struggles. She and her mom were really close, and I think they still are. We kind of fell out a few years ago. Mm-hmm. I know that she and her dad had a lot of struggles. I think maybe they kind of repaired that relationship as they got older, but not necessarily the same. I just like to think, in a sense, she and I were kind of soulmates. So I think that's kind of why we clicked so well. Not necessarily because of our background, just we kind of got each other. Mm-hmm.
So what separated you guys in adulthood? Like what led to that estrangement, if you mind talking about it?
No, I don't mind. When I was 19, I was dating this guy from 18 to 19, and I fell out with my parents, and I needed money for college, so we decided to get married to avoid school.
I got married at 19.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
We're twins.
Yes, we are twins. No.
Too young.
Yeah, but I feel like how is love? Like, how have you dealt with love as more in adulthood? I feel like love at that moment in time is unlike any that I felt since. So I mean, I don't know if it's too young. Maybe that's just us taking advantage.
It's almost too beautiful when you're young, because you don't see any of the red flags, you don't see any of the struggles. You just think, well, we love each other and we're gonna make it.
Yeah, it's us against the world. Like truly, you really feel that way.
Especially when you're like so fresh to adulthood and you're like, oh, we're gonna go get an apartment like everybody else.
I don't care what my parents say. They don't know my life.
My dad hated it.
Yeah, I mean, my parents weren't the fondest of my decision making either.
No.
So I definitely had to go against them as well. Wow. So getting married at that young age, how did you deal with the struggles of that seriousness? Because marriage puts a whole new emphasis on a relationship.
Yeah, and you don't think about it. I think when you get it done and you're still a teenager and you're like, it's just paperwork, and it's not. It's not. Like, as soon as, you know, you get home and you're like, oh my God, what did we do?
Right.
What did we do?
This is real.
Yeah, and I remember we were getting eloped. We were living in Longview at the time, and we drove to Portland to get eloped. And on the drive there, we wore the nicest things we had. So, like, I had my prom dress from my last year of high school, and he wore, like, a little button-up that his ex-girlfriend had gotten. It's really bad. And I was, like, shaking the whole time, and I couldn't understand why until we got home, and I was like, oh, this is big. This is a big thing we just did. And I'm like, this is the person I'm with for the rest of my life. And then you're not. And then I think that adds, like, another layer of, like, the gravity of that decision from when you were young. Right.
I mean, what were some of the things that led to the relationship ending after marriage?
I think the pandemic was...
Oh, you got married before the pandemic?
2016.
Like, okay. Oh, so you were married up until the pandemic?
Yeah, we split a year and a half ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did the pandemic negatively affect your relationship?
I think I was diagnosed with OCD, and I kind of withdrew into myself, and I don't know if you can imagine the like health obsessions during a global pandemic.
Yeah, cleaning everything.
And I was scared for my daughter. She was just a baby at the time, and I think he receded into himself in a different way. Mm-hmm. He really got into streaming, like on Twitch, and he's a gamer. Mm-hmm. I don't think he does it anymore, but during that time, I think that was kind of his emotional coping mechanism. Like, that was his vice. Mm-hmm. And so he was there, and I'm over here. And at the same time, I was also working a full-time job, a part-time job, and I was going to school full-time to kind of advance my career, to take care of us. And I think that effort that I was making, where he wasn't making the same effort, combined with our different coping mechanisms, just kind of drove us apart. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like being stuck in the house with a partner and then, like, really dissecting the relationship for what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Plus, we were fairly new parents, too, so.
Right. I mean, so much pressure. All the pressure. Man, I never... Because I got divorced 2018, so I didn't even feel that pandemic extra stress. Mm-hmm. Oh, my goodness. I can only imagine.
You got out before it got to be too much.
Yeah, man. I really felt a pandemic in the future, and I was like, let's go. Let's speed this up.
Let's not trap ourselves together.
Yeah. We're going to be stuck together if we don't leave now.
Terrible. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so how was the divorce process for you in the pandemic? Like, were the courthouses, like, was it virtual divorce? Like, what was it?
Yeah, I filled out most of the paperwork.
Same.
Online.
I filled out the paperwork too.
That too, yeah. And I sent it to him, and he didn't sign it. So that made it kind of tricky, because I had to file the default motion, which was... I don't know if you had to do that as well, but there's a lot of fighting you have to do with the court.
I'm gonna be honest. That was the easiest part of our whole relationship, was the divorce.
Really?
No issues.
Did she just sign?
She just
what
signed.
An angel.
What an angel. Because we all was in the divorce court, and because it was so easy for us, we were last. So I had to watch everyone else's tumultuous divorce proceeding, and I was like, oh my God. So how was that struggle of getting divorced? Did you have to hire a lawyer and stuff like that?
I did. I did hire
See, that's what I did not want to do. Yeah.
I didn't want to do it either. Yeah. It took me months, and I was finally like, I have to talk to somebody who has a legal background, because I don't know what I'm doing, and I can't fight with him anymore.
Yeah.
So he was involving his family. We were talking about custody, yet he wasn't helping with anything, and it was like, I have to talk to somebody. And I called the lawyer, and he laughed at me after I told him, and he said, this is probably the most open and shut case I've ever heard in my life, so you don't really need me.
Wow.
He's like, just submit the paperwork.
What a nice lawyer.
Yeah, he was
took your money, but he was like, oh, I care about you.
I paid a little bit for a consultation, but he was like, you don't need me. It's like, you don't need to pay me thousands of dollars on retainer for this. Just submit the paperwork, file for sole custody, call it a day.
Yeah.
And I did, and then that's, the default was just the trickiest part, but.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Wow, so leaving that relationship, how was it? I'm assuming you have sole custody now?
Yeah.
So how was having sole custody, being a single mother who's still trying to progress in her career? How is that working for you?
It is isolating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's, after my divorce, I dropped a lot of my friends. Actually, I should say after my separation, because I had a lot of male friends that decided that would be the time to ask me out. So I kind of lost my friend group and my husband in one fell swoop. Mm-hmm. And then it was still, the vaccine wasn't available for her age group, so we just kind of hunkered down in our new apartment, and I was working so much at the time, I felt like I was going crazy.
Yeah.
It's a little smoother now because I'm used to it.
What was your job at that time, or?
I was doing 2 contract gigs for 2 different apps, and just doing all the writing for that. It was, it's not necessarily a lot of work. The meetings were a lot. All the meetings between the 2. It was like a juggling act, plus having a 2-year-old at home. So it was like...
Yeah. So what was your exact part in the job as far as writing is concerned? Like, what would you classify yourself as?
So the job, like they would list my title as UX writer or content designer, and that's essentially just deciding on what we're naming certain buttons or headlines in the little app or whatever, things like that. Very minute things that you wouldn't think too much about, but developers don't really know how to name those things.
Yeah. They want a creative mind for that, so they call you. So what is your dream job in that field of creative writing?
I would like to be, I've always said I would like to be a novelist. I would also like to be a screenwriter someday. I really want to work in cinema in some realm, like get a movie out there. Oh, wow. I've always thought that would be, just to see it alive, like a story just alive.
Your dream is in reality now.
Yes.
What inspired you to get into that field? Like where did your love for writing begin?
I think when I was very young and my mom was still kind of there, she kind of nursed my love for books. I think I probably lived at the library.
Yeah.
So then reading as I got older turned into like little bits of writing, and then my teachers during school and stuff kind of helped foster that too, kind of like encouraging the talent. And then when I got into college, I got an internship in communications, and my career just kind of kept going from there. I just kept getting hired for writing.
Nice. So it's like your connection to writing is deep, because it's attached to your mother. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
So was she fond of reading and writing as well, or did she just lead you in that direction?
No, she is. I think that she's a writer too, but maybe not as outward as I am. Mm-hmm. I remember we used to take walks along the river next to where I live, and she would tell me different story ideas that she had for her own childhood growing up, which she had her own difficulties, and she would kind of want to do memoir type stories. And I think maybe she passed that on to me in a way.
Okay. So do you how would you categorize your writing? Would it be more in the fictional, non-fictional realm? Like what do you really feel the most passionate about when you're writing? Like,
I think fiction as separate from me. I really like writing in a third person where it's not like all in my perspective. But I do like having some sort of connection to my life, so I sneak a little nonfiction in there.
What are you working on currently?
It's right now I'm working on a book kind of in a similar vein, third person perspective, called Unlikable, it's basically just about unlikable characters doing unlikable things.
Yeah, like based off of real human beings who are unlikable. Ooh.
Yeah.
Do you have like weird political people who are like extremists?
Just like exploring the way that like we're all tied to each other in a weird way, doing, what is ultimately human things. But we as the observer can be like, that's not cool.
Right. Yeah, I mean, are you spiritual? Do you consider yourself spiritual, religious?
I consider myself spiritual.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I look at the world, because I'm more of a spiritual person too. It's like we're all connected. It's kind of like we do take a third person point of view when we're looking at other people, but it's like we're kind of all motivated by the same things. We just show them in different ways. Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. So how is the dating scene with everything that you have going on and your creative ventures and your daughter? You know, how does all of those things work together?
The dating scene is bananas. I don't. I mean, it's not that I try particularly hard, but when I get up to it, I'm like, I'd like to go on a date. It always turns out to be not a match, which is, I think, the easiest one to deal with, or like going out and it's I'm just looking for a casual type of thing. It's like, I mean, I wish you would have said that before. It's just, I think, and that's okay. I think it's just that's what's the most popular method of dating nowadays, and sometimes I think I have to kind of like age out of my age group before I'm gonna meet anybody.
You feel like where you're at in life age-wise is kind of conflicting with your relationship goals.
Yeah, well, I think mentally I'm like 40.
I mean, I feel like anyone who analyzes the world from like an outside perspective is always going to be mentally older than everyone else, because we're already 10 steps ahead, mentally. So it's like, it just feels like out of place being around, insane mindsets, doing the same things, and so I totally understand that. So are you looking to be back into a marriage? Is that your...
Not necessarily. I think that's such a leap for me to consider right now. Like for me, I think I miss having a best friend in a sense. And I think at one point, my ex was my best friend, and I miss doing things like that with another person, like just sharing the day-to-day, having someone to go do stuff with. A marriage, I think I could see myself doing it again. But I think that's far away from me a little bit.
Yeah. How has marriage been skewed, or how's it improved mentally for you after going through a divorce? Like, what are your thoughts on marriage now?
I think now that I know how difficult it is to get a divorce, I'm like a little warier of it. I still think it's a good thing, in some cases, not in every case. Maybe you shouldn't be 19 when you do it the first time. I think I was, 5 years into the relationship with my ex when I realized, I think I might be at the age where if I hadn't gotten married, I would maybe like to get married. And then I thought about it a second later, like, would I want to get married to my husband? No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like you feel like you've elevated to a point where it's like, this relationship is no longer serving me. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a time period you have to be together before you know if this is the person you want to die with.
Yeah. What do you feel the time period is to get married? Like, how long should you be in a relationship until marriage is a legitimate option?
I think conservatively 5 years, maybe a little bit more liberally, like 2 or 3 years at least.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. I agree.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah, marriage is a tough one, because you never know how marriage is going to be until you're actually married.
Yeah.
Because once you put your name on those dotted lines and like you're technically property of the state or whoever you fancy, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, where are you going? Like that sentence is different when you're married.
No, it's crazy, because it's like you're just fully entwined. Everything you do, you're fully entwined. Like if I woke up one day and I was like, I want to move to Indiana and get my PhD in classics or something, and he didn't want to go, I can't go,
Yeah.
But if you're dating, it's less of that conversation. It's more like we're going in different directions.
Yeah, it's like this is we're making a decision right here whether we're going to stay together or not.
Yeah.
I definitely like the idea of a visual marriage. It looks exactly like a marriage from visually.
Yeah.
But then on paper, You can't be found when you search through the courthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea after getting divorced. But I also understand, like, once you start building assets and you get older, it's like, okay, if I die tomorrow, how are you going to take care of this and that? I mean, I understand marriage from that perspective.
Definitely. But maybe you don't need it so much in your 20s. Maybe. I don't know. I heard this one quote from somebody the other day that said 20-year-olds are the grown-ups of the babies and 30-year-olds are the babies of the grown-ups.
Oh.
Like,
that's so true. You know what I'm getting at that point? Because I'll hear people like on stage be like, oh, I'm 30, I feel so old. And I'm like, a 50-year-old is rolling their eyes right now. Like, a 50-year-old is like, if this little kid doesn't shut up, like, you know, so I totally feel that. Yeah, it's just so funny how our mindsets change from 18 to 25 to 35. You know, it's like, who am I going to be at 35? Like, how do you envision yourself at 35? Like, what do you see for yourself?
I mean, I see who I'd like to be. I'd like to, at some point, you know, have a home for myself and my daughter that's not like an apartment with a washer and dryer on site.
Yeah.
I would like to, you know, be published in some form or another, be in the industry in some type of way where, you know, my name's out there and that's fully my career. Have her life set up, you know, her college fund in a comfortable place for me, and like that's kind of where I see myself. It's where I'd like to be, you know.
Okay. That's nice. That's very, very peaceful, but also productive. I like both yin and yang of those situations. Are you and your ex-husband like close and cordial when it comes to the raising of your child?
Well, since I do most of it, he just kind of says, that's cool. That sounds like a good idea.
Man, you're doing a great job.
You're doing great. That's really what I get, honestly.
Here's another star to put on the refrigerator.
Yeah. No, he does. He helps in some ways. He does.
That's good.
But yeah, no, I think we've gotten to a point where we have a sort of friendship, you know, something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's a process. That's the one thing that I didn't get in my marriage. I was married for 5 years, but we didn't have any children. You know, that just happens. But yeah, I can always think about that. Like, how would we be as co-parents had that have occurred? And you know, sometimes I'm just like, okay, well, we're here.
Sometimes it's better not to find out. I mean.
yeah, but I mean the blessing. So how are you? How are you and your daughter's relationship? Like,
she's like my little best friend. She's my whole world. You know, like I don't know. I always say like. Or I don't even, I just think it sometimes, like, I wonder what would have happened if we hadn't had kids, and then I'm like, I can't even imagine my life without her. Yeah.
Wow. So is she starting school yet?
She started preschool this last year. And that's actually where he helps out, is like, he'll go do the volunteer stuff when I'm too busy, so.
Good. So how was it leaving the pandemic of having your kid nice and safe and secure, and now you have to release your beautiful child into the world around other beautiful children? How is that as a parent?
It was stressful at first. Like, the first moment was, okay, and because she was a baby, and like, this is her first real social life. This is it. This is the first time she's had one. And then after that, it was like, I get time to myself. Oh my God.
Ooh, I can breathe. Oh wow.
Yeah.
This is what a deep fresh air breath feels like. This is great. Yeah.
It was nice for the first time in 3 years since I had her. It was like, man, that was a lot.
Yeah, nice. Okay, how was she handling being out? Because I mean, I'm sure that's a big culture shock for her.
She just told me to go home. The first time she was like, okay, bye, mama. And I'm like,
oh, nice.
She's hyper independent. You know, one of the things I had to do while I was getting my divorce is go through this parenting class. It's state mandated. It's a state mandated guilt trip. And
word.
How does this affect your children?
You should really think about this before you make this decision.
What traumas are you reporting? Yeah. Oh my God. And all the parents were talking about their kids being, little empaths and like they're feeling everything. I'm like, my daughter could not care She will tell her father to go home.
Wow.
He drops her off, we'll be talking for a second, and she's like, okay, Daddy, time for you to leave.
Wow. She's
Yeah.
very emotionally intelligent.
She's brilliant.
How is your parent style? Do you like talk directly to your child as if they're like an adult, or do you kind of baby the words that you use?
I mean, I simplify them, you know, because she's still really young, and I think that a lot of the emotional concepts are going to progress as she gets older, like a lot of things that I'll be teaching her and talking to her about, but I do talk to her kind of in this tone, and she doesn't like when I use different voices in general, like even if I'm reading and we're like Santa Claus, ho ho ho, she's like, don't do that.
Wow.
I can't baby talk her.
Wow, kids are so freaking smart these days. I am so curious to see what the next 20 years looks like. It's going to be a bunch of Einsteins walking around here.
Generation Alpha is
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay, I'm that is cool. I'm glad that we got to enjoy this conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Namaste. Yeah.